Okay, good morning ladies and gents. Last time out we looked at life cycle assessments, what they are and what they do. What I've got today for you is loads of questions to have a look at. What sort of questions you're going to see from the exam board. I've set you on Insight a huge load of questions. What I've done is I've got one file which contains the questions as they are within the format of an exam question, and on this PowerPoint and on the second document I've got the questions set up in isolation, so you can just tackle those without having to rely on some of the knowledge that perhaps we haven't covered yet, because that's in later modules. So without further ado, let's have a look at some of these questions. So question one then. Disposable cups are made from coated paper or polystyrene. The table below gives some information about disposable cups. So you've got the source of the raw materials, the energy required to make one cup in arbitrary units, biodegradable, recyclable. So the question asks you to compare the advantages and disadvantages of using coated paper and polystyrene to make disposable cups. It says use the table above and your knowledge and understanding of life cycle assessments to tackle this question, and it's worth 4 marks. So before we go too much further into that, what's it asking you to do? It's asking you to compare the pros and cons of each. So you're not required to make a decision, you're not required to evaluate it, it's just a comparison. So you can compare the energy, and when you are comparing each of these things, make a decision and make a comment. So the energy required to make wood is a lot more, it's more than double the amount to make crude oil. So with that in mind, crude oil is better. Biodegradable, wood is, polystyrene cups aren't. Recyclable, no, paper cups are not, but polystyrene ones are. So you've compared the information on both of them there, and that's going to get you most of the marks. But it does say your own knowledge and understanding of life cycle assessments. So is there anything on there that isn't covered? For example, does it talk about the use of them? Are they single use? Are they multiple use? In this case, you would argue that probably both, as they're both disposable, they're both single use. There's no advantage there. But what you need to do is think about your own knowledge of the 4 stages of a life cycle assessment and see if they help. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and have a go at tackling the question. Once you've written down your answer, then we're going to move on and just quickly look at the mark scheme. Okay, so this is the mark scheme for the question. You can see there what the marks are for. And for a level 2 response, for a 3 to 4 mark answer, you want scientifically relevant features identified, the ways in which they are similar, different is made clear, where appropriate the magnitude of the similarity difference is noted. Okay, so the indicative content is there. If you want to pause this and have a look, then you can do. Alternatively, in the Word document I've sent you, you'll find the mark scheme there, so you can have a look at it at your own leisure there. Okay, on to question 2. Right, question 2 then is a very, very similar question. It's from a different year's paper. So disposable cups are made from coated paper or polystyrene. The table below shows information on the life cycle assessments of disposable cups. So again, it gives you information, the raw materials, the mass of 1 cup in grams, the energy required to produce 1 cup in kilojoules, the energy released when 1 cup is burned in kilojoules, whether they're biodegradable, whether they're recyclable. The difference with this question is it's worth 6 marks, and it's worth 6 marks because it says evaluate the use of coated paper compared with polystyrene to make disposable cups. So what you need to do is exactly the same as last question. Compare the pros and cons of each. So for example, the energy required to produce 1 cup for wood is significantly higher than crude oil, it's more than double. The energy released when 1 cup is burned is more than double. Why is that useful? Well, that might be useful, for example, when you are looking at the disposal, so you can use it then as a way of generating electricity. Coated cups are biodegradable, whereas polystyrene ones aren't. However, coated cups are not recyclable, whereas polystyrene are. So you make all those comments, then you evaluate. You must make a decision about which of the 2 is better and justify that. It doesn't matter which you pick, as long as you say, based on all of this information, this one is better. Okay, so it's a 6-mark question, so you're aiming for about 6 minutes work on it. So again, if you pause and have a go at writing the answer, and in a second, the mark scheme will pop up. Okay, pause it and have a go now. Right, so this is the mark scheme for it. There's a lot to go through there, so I'm not going to go through it in detail, but if you want to pause this and have a read through it, or have a look on the mark scheme on the Word document I've sent you. So again, for a level 3 one, it's a strongly linked judgment. So you have to make a decision. You have to choose one. Strongly linked and logically supported by a sufficient range of correct reasons. If you just go through every one, this is better than that, 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 and I'm picking this one because all of those reasons are more important than all of those reasons, that's how you access the 5 to 6 marks. Again, to get a 6 mark, you do need to get some of your own knowledge and understanding in. So it's not just information in that question. Okay, moving on now to the next question. So this is question 3. This is another life cycle assessment. Again, it's the same sort of idea in that you're given lots of information. This time, it's stuff you don't know. It's not the paper polystyrene thing that we looked at in the lesson involving the plastic bag. This time it's a new use. So this time it's a greenhouse frame made from wood or aluminium, and it gives you the information. And at the bottom it says, evaluate the use of each material using table 1. This time it's worth 4 marks because there's less to go through. So what you have to do is to look at the information, look at the raw material, look at the mass, look at the useful lifespan, look at what it can be recycled into or whether it can be recycled, and say which is better for each one of those, and at the end you evaluate it. You must say wood because or aluminium because. So that's worth 4 marks. Again, if you pause the video and have a go. Okay, let's look at the mark scheme for that. So, for a level 2, which is the 3 to 4 mark one, a judgment strongly linked and logically supported by a sufficient range of correct reasons is given. So those are some of the reasons you might want to have a look through. Again, if you want to pause this and check your answer, or if you want to use the mark scheme on the Word document, that's absolutely fine. Okay, moving on. Right, this is the second half of that question, and this is not directly linked to life cycle assessments, but this is stuff we've already done. We looked at recycling of metals, so here's a recycling of metals question, and then there's another life cycle assessment question related to which material we use for the windows. So again, one advantage of making greenhouse windows from polymer rather than from glass. So just look at the look at the table, look at the 2 columns, and make a decision about which is the best, or why it's better. Okay, one advantage of making greenhouse windows from the polymer. Okay, right. Mark scheme for that. Have a check of your answers if you want to do that. That's absolutely fine. But let's move on to another question. Right, question 4. Another life cycle assessment. A ruck of information here, so it's a 6 marker. Again, the key thing here is evaluate. So you must decide one or the other. So it says use the information given and your knowledge and understanding to justify your choice. So again, like the others, you're going to go through each one of those rows and say this is better than that because, and at the end of it, evaluate. Say this is better because I'm going to pick this material. So again, I'm going to ask you in a second to pause it and have a go at the question. Again, 6 marks, and then I'll ping up the mark scheme. So pause and have a go. Right, mark scheme time. So again, for 5 to 6 marks, a detailed and coherent argument is provided which considers a range of issues and comes to a conclusion. So you pick one. So there's the indicative content. Again, if you want 6 marks, you need to bring something to the table that's not specific to the question. Not specific to the information that's given. So something that you brought in yourself to any other information you have. So again, have a look at that. If you want to pause it and check your answer, alternatively, again, it's on the Word document. Right, questions 5 and 6 then. I've just pinged these up here because they contain life cycle assessment questions. However, they're not specifically life cycle assessment. So this shows the life cycle of a car body. Questions 5 and 6 are the same question from 2 different exam papers. So again, this is about the importance of recycling. So 3 reasons why steel should be recycled that aren't cost. And then question 6 is, again, looking at the end of the life of a product, looking at the disposal of it. So again, 3 reasons why you should recycle and not reuse or send to landfill. So again, if you want to pause it and have a go at those. Okay, and final thing is the mark scheme. So that's the mark scheme for those questions there. Again, if you want to pause this and have a go at looking at your answers. Okay, fantastic. Right, the point of today was so you could see the sort of questions that are going to come up in an exam. Life cycle assessments look really difficult because it looks like you're going to have to remember a lot of information, but you're not. What you're actually doing is analysing and interpreting information and then evaluating it. They're core science skills, and that they're also core life skills to be able to evaluate information. So it's important that you are able to do that. Given a table of information, can I look at the information, decide which of those 2 is best, and then make a decision at the end? Okay, this is not just a skill for science, you'll use this all the time. If I'm buying a new fridge, I'll go on to whichever website I'm intending to buy it from, and I will perhaps click on the compare button. It'll ping up 2 or 3 different products, and I will go across down each one, going which is the most energy efficient, which has got the biggest freezer compartment, which of those fits the space, etc., etc., etc. And at the end of it, I'm going to make a decision. Right, that's how we buy things nowadays, particularly online. So to be able to evaluate effectively is a really crucial skill. So hopefully that's useful for you, and I will see you again soon. Any problems, please give me a shout. You know my email address, it's crumb@tahs.net, and I'll see you soon. Take care.